again, and welcome to SCLC Today TV. And we're here at the SCLC office in our mask. Welcome. Joining me, of course, is our president and CEO, Dr. Charles Steele Jr. Dr. Steele, nice to be back home.
I'm glad to be back in the office, Maynard. As we arrive here, I'll take my mask off because we had the protection of the Holy Ghost.
Nice mask, too, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Steele, big business, though. You just settled a suit with the Nielsen Corporation, I guess. Cheryl Grace, a powerful senior vice president there for 17 years, had a discrimination suit against Nielsen that takes all the ratings. Powerful company. You were in Detroit, major settlement.
Chicago,
okay.
Yeah, their house in Chicago, and I was there a couple of weeks ago in all that snow. But the fact being is that Ms. Grace, who has been with Nielsen, who now controls all the ratings for TV, a lot of folks might not know that, all over the world.
Black woman.
Black woman. This is a black woman. And they're trying to remove her from her seniority, not by title, but by her budget, her influence, and her decision making. So we were called in on this particular situation. And Nielsen also controlled arbitrage, which controls and rate the radio stations. This is a gigantic company all over, mega big, all over the world, just not the United States of America. So SCLC was called in, and I went through the snowstorm, and I'm happy to say that I even talked via conference call with the CEO, the president, and by the way, the CEO is also the diversity director. Who in the world ever heard of a CEO also being the diversity director? Racism, discrimination in a package. So the administrators, assistants, we all talked several times via conference call. And the fact being, Maynard, is that they talked to me very civilly, but they did not civilly correct the problem. So we had to go in and, without meeting with them again, and actually publicize the discriminatory practices that Nielsen was doing. But after all of that, I'm happy to say that we got a call at the end of last week that Ms. Grace, along with her attorney, sat down at the table and they negotiated a settlement.
That is still, in this day and age, 2021, are you saying that civil rights agitation, civil rights work still works? It still can make a difference?
Well, it's never going away. We got success to a degree as people of color, of the Negroid race, and we thought we could rest on our laurels. No, it's just like COVID-19. It's not going away. You're going to have to get a booster. You're going to have to get a flu shot and a COVID shot every year. Same as civil rights. And racism is a virus. It's contagious, and it's a silent killer. You never be removed from it.
So this was resolved. You say Nielsen came to the table and redressed the wrongs against this Vice President Cheryl Grace. There was a victory there, you think?
Of course it was a victory, and we don't take it lightly. We serving notice, though. We serving notice to all of American businesses, all of American organizations that exemplify an implementation of racism. It's a silent killer. Just like we fight COVID, we got a vaccine for racism.
2020 brought this back to a head again, right? You've been fighting civil rights all your adult life. But 2020 kind of rose the bar again a little bit, did it not?
Absolutely, due to the fact that I came up under the era of George Wallace. George Wallace in the state of Alabama, and worked with his son, George Wallace Jr., when I was in the legislature. But the fact being is that I'm used to these type of tactics, and it has never been eradicated from our society because we've never been healed from racism. For over 400 years, this country was founded upon the forcefulness of the migration, the white migration of force by any race of ethnicity or people was the transatlantic African slave trade. And we've never been eradicated from that, never been trained from that, never been healed from that. But SCLC has the Kenyan philosophy, and we can train you. And many of the companies now are asking for that training.
National news also this week. Faith leaders are fighting against a voter suppression ban on Sunday voting. Here in Georgia, 300 clergy and faith leaders are approaching, afraid that bills moving through the legislature here in Georgia will erase voting rights. You've been approached by that too. There's much afoot here in Georgia and across the country to eradicate some voting rights legislation.
Well, man, it didn't just start now. You know, people were blindfolded 2013, I should say June the 25th, 2013. We kept telling folks, when you eradicate and gut Section 4 and Section 5 of the 1965 Voter Rights Act, and now they're trying to take away Section 2. Yeah. And what does Section 2? It starts bigger than Georgia or any other state. It started at the U.S. Supreme Court. Section 2 is under threat now. What does Section 2, the amendment in terms of the 1965 Voter Rights Act, Section 2, it says that no person of color, of the Negroid race, or black race, African Americans, but people of color should be discriminated against or made difficult to vote to any degree in terms of this country and the United States of America Constitution. But let me say this. You wouldn't even have to have a 1965 Voter Rights Act, which is a shame in its own right. We are citizens of this country. The United States, in its own right, to recognize us for who we are as citizens of this country and with the Constitution of the United States of America. All you have to do is have law enforcement to make sure that the Constitution is represented and implemented in terms of what it's supposed to stand for. Why have a 1965 Voter Rights Act? Because America speak with faulty tongue.
Yeah, but it's about to be erased, is it not? It's under threat. As also voting rights, voting efforts here in Georgia and across the country under threat. You know, in fact, they don't want you to vote on Sundays now.
Souls to the polls.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about a religious type of process. Souls to the polls. What country? In some countries, they pay folks in terms of their expenses to get to the polls. Mm-hmm. In some countries, I do know this because I travel the world. But America is trying to take away, not paying you to get to the polls, but trying to eliminate your jobs so you can put gas in and economically remove us. Then you're going to take the accessibility to have the right to vote. That is un-American, it's treason, and you are overthrowing the Constitution of the United States of America. And America has to be charged with that.
These are tough times, isn't it?
Tough times.
I mean, President Biden won, but the reaction to that has almost become reactionary, hasn't it?
It is. And hats off to President Biden. I think at this particular time he's trying to do what's right, but I want him to also implement an executive order in terms of bringing back the 1965 Voter Rights Act and expand upon that. And I told his administration that. I talked to leaders of his administration, which were very receptive, that we need to restore the 1965 Voter Rights Act. It can be done by executive order. Oh, Maynard, by the way.
Uh-oh, here we go.
When
it's just like that, something's coming, y'all.
Hey, we're coming with this one. By the way, with all of your getting and all of our getting and all of the people of America throughout the world, we were never taught that the Emancipation Proclamation was implemented by President Abraham Lincoln in 1863. And guess what? Emancipation Proclamation was implemented through executive order.
That's true.
No Congress, no Republican or Democrat at that particular time would have voted for the Emancipation Proclamation or the freeing of African Americans, Negroes at the time, and people of color. That was done through an executive order, Emancipation Proclamation.
I just tell you got your second COVID vaccination. This pumped you up.
I'm looking for another vaccination for racism now. And we have to take it very seriously. There are good, fair-minded thinking people on both sides. Let me just say that. We wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for fair-minded thinking Caucasian, white people, and other people of ethnicity. What we have to do now is collaborate. We have to collaborate And that's what's threatening our freedom. That's what's threatening the civil rights movement, because we don't understand the significance of collaboration.
Ladies and gentlemen, our COVID vaccinated president, Dr. Charles Steele Jr. I'm Maynard Eaton, looking for my second shot coming up in a week or two. This has been SCLC Today TV. I'm Maynard Eaton. We'll see you next week.